Welcome. My name is Jan Hertel, and I'm here to moderate this forum between our two mayoral candidates. We have Fasbender on my right, and we have Danna Schultz on my left. And I want to give you some idea of what's going to be happening in the next little while. First of all, as we all know, there is a really important election on November 6th. And that you can vote now, you can vote on November 6th. And put this away in your memory, mnvotes.org. mnvotes.org. It tells you where your polling place is. It tells you if you are registered or not. It tells you how to vote early. Literally everything you'd ever want to know, mnvotes.org. It's a really important place to go. And I'm really proud of Minnesota because they have made it really easy for people. So that was the first thing. The second thing is an item of business. Can you put your cell phone, either turn your ringer off or turn the whole thing off? We wouldn't want to interrupt them this evening, so thank you for doing that. The guys in the corner also inform me that as we speak right now, we are live on Facebook as we speak, and it will be on cable TV, either channel 14 or 16, we're not sure which. Tomorrow, a lot, and in fact, a lot until Election Day. So in case you forgot one of the answers, you will have an easy place to go back to it. So what's going to happen goes like this. We've already spoken and we know who goes first and second and all that. Each of them will have 2 minutes for just a general introduction of themselves. We have 4 questions that they have had in advance. And again, they will each have 4 minutes to answer. And then we get to the part where they do final thoughts for a couple minutes. And then we need you. And we need people to be ready with your questions. Lisa will be walking around with a microphone so that we can ask questions. So the more prepared you are, the more smoothly that part of the evening can go also. Anything before we begin? Great. Let's have a round of applause for our 2 candidates. I like that part. We are incredibly lucky in Hastings, and I think we've always known that. When Paul Hicks decided not to run again, we immediately had several candidates jump up and say, I want this chance. Because this is a community we all love and we all live in. And so I'm very proud that we have such qualified and motivated people. So with no further ado, Danna, you have 2 minutes to introduce yourself.
Good evening. I'm Danna Elling Schultz. I think most of you know me, and it's good to see friendly faces out there. I'd like to thank the AAUW for hosting this forum tonight. As Jan noted, this is an important election, and I'm very happy to be here to talk about the issues facing our city. And I also want to commend the local AAUW for being part of the ongoing mission that started with the AAUW nationally in 1881. I'm proud to be a member of this group and that is so committed to making our world a well-educated and more equitable place. My husband Doug and I came here 32 years ago when he got a job at the Star-Gazette. We joined St. Philip's, this is our church, and we immediately got involved in the community. We raised our daughters, Libby and Abby. Abby's back there tonight. And they're both Hastings High School grads, and they've been active in the community. And Abby is currently a teacher at Hastings High School. Over the years, I have served in a number of volunteer capacities in Hastings. I was on the Parks Board, the Hastings Planning Commission, and then I served 16 years as the 4th Ward Council member on the Hastings City Council. I was also a member of HEDRA, which is our Economic Development Authority. I was chair of the city's finance committee, and I worked diligently, especially during the Great Recession, to keep our finances balanced and our city functioning during some really tough times. When I'm not busy doing those things, I play in the Hastings Tennis League, where I serve as the secretary. I'm a Black Dirt Theater member and a Y Board member, and of course I'm a member of AAUW. And I'm an active member of St. Philip's Lutheran Church. We just finished up a capital campaign, and I was the co-chair of that. I'm running for mayor because I want us all to have the opportunity to live in a safe, friendly community with good paying jobs, clean drinking water, robust businesses, quality housing, efficient transportation options, and excellent schools. Experience matters in this race. And this is a great opportunity for our community to grow. And we have to look at the big picture. And I'm asking that we marshal the energy of this great community to meet our goals. And we can do this if we work together. Hastings is on the cusp of becoming a vital community with a lot of energy in our region. And I think together we can make that move forward if we follow some of the goals outlined and if we work together as a community as we have always done in the past. Thank you.
Mary?
Hello, I'm Mary Hoffmann-Fasbender. I am not a politician. I am a communitician, I'm going to start with. I have worked for this community for 40 years in civic organizations, governmental committees and commissions and charters. I have a business that I've had for 34 years, of which I sold actually 2 years ago so I could move forward and have more time to run for mayor. I was actually raised in Meesville, Minnesota. Yes, I'm a mud hen, and I still am proud to say that I am. I had my father and mother worked very hard in their business. My dad owned a service station, Hoffman Direct Service, of which I saw him go to work diligently every day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Plus, he was the fire chief of Meesville for multiple years. So that is a part of who I am, of my business leadership and my civic-minded organizational skills that I have achieved. I learned partially from my dad and my mom. My mom was a housewife of 7 children. And she worked very hard too as a housewife, and I learned from her that working hard is a big part of who we are. My mother also worked at a local restaurant, Wiederhold Supper Club, for multiple years, where I saw her to go to work at evenings, and my dad, stayed home and took care of us children. My husband and I have been married 18 years. Paul, which is not here, he's a on-the-road trucker, so he is not home a lot, which gives me, opportunity as well to give a lot of time to the city. We have no children. We have one furry little pet, Hannah, and she totally understands when I say Mama has to go to a meeting. She just crawls in her chair, and she knows. She knows this is very important for me, as I think my support that has been supporting me knows that this is a big part of who I am. I want to see Hastings move forward. Like I said, I am not a politician. I'm a communitician. I'm here for the people, and I am at all times out to listen to what you want me to bring into this community.
Thank you. And so we'll go on to our first prepared question here. Question number 1. How would you foster an environment that will attract and retain or change businesses that serve the citizens of our community? Could you address specifically how you would seek to enhance economic self-sufficiency for women in the workforce of Hastings? AAUW seeks paycheck fairness and healthcare affordability. You all have 4 minutes.
Thank you. There's so much to say on this issue, but I think I'm going to start with a story. Probably not many of you know this, but my father died when I was 5. And he left behind my mother and my sister and brother. And she had to get a job, so she became a lunch lady at our local school. And of course, she made a great deal less money than my dad did. And she needed health insurance. And after she got the job, she went to the school superintendent and asked if they would be willing to cover me. And they would not. So here was this woman who was trying to raise these 3 kids, and she couldn't get health insurance. And for a long time when I was a kid, I don't know why, but I did get sick a lot. I was in the hospital. I had all sorts of different things, pneumonia and stuff like that. So that was a tough thing. So I know how terribly important it is to have equity in the workplace, and insurance, on pay, and all of that. And our older daughter is diabetic, and I certainly know that if I hadn't had the job that I do have, we would have been in a lot of dire straits, because as a diabetic, as my opponent knows, it takes a great deal of courage and money to manage that chronic disease. So what do we do to attract and retain businesses? Expand broadband and fiber optic opportunities so women can work from home if they choose. They can telecommute on days when the weather's bad, or if they have a sick child, or if that's just the way they want to do it. And it doesn't just have to be men or women, it can be men. If they want to telecommute, I think it's a great option for a Hastings that's just outside the metro core. I think we need to provide more and better transportation options so people can move around and out of Hastings, so they don't always need a vehicle to get to work. If you're on the low end of the pay scale, keeping a vehicle together, working, operating in a state like Minnesota gets to be a challenge sometimes. And believe me, I know that, because we used to have to catch a ride early in the morning when my mom went to work because she didn't know how to drive after my dad died. Now, she learned, she didn't like it, but that's what we had to do. I think we need to make further investments and provide incentives in other areas of Hastings, such as Vermillion Street, also some options out here on the west side and on the south side of Hastings. And I've advocated for us to have an office park. Maybe some have co-working locations where you could come in if you need an office for a day or a week, if you're trying to interview a client or have a meeting or something like that. And that would go along with the broadband idea, because you need to have those kind of fiber connections to be able to do that kind of work. I think we need to work with groups like AAUW to lobby legislators on paid family leave options for women and men. And work with the school district chamber and local businesses to provide internships and apprenticeships so young men and women can find meaning in well-paying jobs after high school. And I do have to say that the investments that we made in Hastings downtown has fostered a lot of businesses down there, and a lot of them are run by women. And I'm proud of how that's worked, and the fact that we've been able to provide the incentives and really push our downtown forward, because it has become a vital place where people love to go. And I think that we just need to move a little bit beyond that, and we can make some changes all around our city. Thank you.
Business is very hard, as some of you know that own businesses. It's a 24/7 job, like I said in my opening statement. I have ran a business for 34 years. I personally went through the ups and downs of which Danna has been talking about through the city issues. I lived those. I was there for my employees to remain working hard so they could still take a paycheck home for their families and their children, and to get to where they have gotten today. I am proud to say that there's been multiple that have left me, which was very hard for me, but now that I know that they have opened their own businesses and they come back to me and thanked me for the education and the support that I had given them through all those years. That's what businesses should do. We should help each other to get where they want to go. I remember when I was downtown on Sibley Street, I was one of 7 hair salons in a 2-block radius. 2-block, well, maybe 3. 7 of us. But rather than working against each other, we worked together, and we all survived that. And that's what's important about Hastings. Downtown is thriving. Love downtown. I will always love downtown because I was down there 21 years for my business. But I want to see expansions out to the west and to the south. We need to help those areas of our town grow as we all helped downtown survive and get through their issues. With that, I believe that is what creates a community. Not, I shouldn't say not, but a 9-to-5 job is much easier than owning a business. So I walk through our downtown. I walk through our Westview. I go to Southtown. I support these employers and tell them if there's anything they need, I will be there because I've lived it. It's hard work. If you don't own a business, you don't even know the discomfort that it comes when you go to payroll and it's like, oh my gosh, how am I going to do this? And for some odd reason, it always worked out for me. I feel very blessed and very fortunate that have had 34 years in Hastings. 34 years, that's a long time. That's almost half of my lifetime. I started when I was 23. All I asked for my parents was a signature for a loan, and I did it, and I paid it back way before the time was that I was supposed to have it paid by. So I support local business very much so. I will be there to help them if I need to. I'm going to be a hands-on mayor. I will make phone calls. I will touch out to businesses that we as a community have talked about that we want to see in Hastings. I will do that as the mayor of Hastings. I have the time. Like I said, I sold my business. I'm working out of my home. I have virtually, my clients know it too, but they're willing to wait because they know this is important for our community and they know it's important for me. I have worked hard to get where I am today, and I will continue to work hard for the city of Hastings.
Thank you. Thanks to both of you. How about one nice round of applause? It's harder than you would expect to have to put all of your thoughts out there for everybody. Our next question, number 2. Do you think there are diversity issues in our community? The City of Hastings is currently in conversation about diversity, inclusion, and equity. How will you recognize the value of diversity and equal opportunity for all? Danna, we'll start with you.
Hastings has a wonderful opportunity to create a more welcoming community that will benefit everyone. And I fully embrace this opportunity, and I ask the community to do the same thing. We should be asking people who represent diversity how they feel about this issue and to work with them to meet this challenge/opportunity. When we meet people who are not like us, we can learn new things. And that means we should welcome those who did not grow up in Hastings, but who want to be a part of the opportunities that our community has to offer. If we truly want our community to grow, we have to be welcoming to new people. This is not just an issue about race, but it's also about socioeconomic status, quality of life, and education. As mayor, I would work to bring together groups to build consensus to make our community a welcoming place for all. At a time when people are divided by politics, income, education levels, we need to provide a decent quality of life for everyone here. Be open and pleasant to all people of Hastings. I'm in a church. Our slogan is, or our call is, come and see. All of Hastings is my neighbor. That's what we are here in this church. And I care about all of them. And here's what I am being told when I'm knocking on doors. Our seniors and our young people need housing they can afford. United Way provides weekend food packages to school children so they aren't hungry. Hastings Family Service and food shelves are seeing more need. It is the job of the mayor and other leaders to address these issues and provide options. We will face our challenges with a strong response. So with that, I want to talk a little bit about the diversity and inclusion equity project that's going on right now. I am very proud that this has gone forward through the school district and through the city of Hastings, and the why. It is time for us to be looking at this issue seriously. If we want to make our community grow, for it to be even better than it is, and for us to have the workforce development and the family, if we want more families with children so we can support our school district, this is key. And I'm asking that all of you join together on this and be community leaders and get involved. It's very, very, very important. I have been here for 32 years. We consider Hastings to be our home. I did not grow up here. I grew up in a much, much smaller town where there I am related to everyone. And my mother used to say, be careful what you do on Friday night because it's going to come home to me before you get here. And she was right. So I know what this community is about. But I also know that there were very many people when we got here who welcomed us. And one of them sitting right in the front row with Kath Penn, Gelly, and Scott. They invited us to this church, and we have been here ever since. And there's a point. I don't work in Hastings. I wanted to. I wanted to work at the school district, and I couldn't talk them into it. But when we could have left when the children were small, and we didn't. Doug and I decided that this was where we wanted to raise our kids, where we wanted to go to church, and where we wanted to be involved. And that's why we're still here, and that's why I'm standing before you, because I wanted to be your mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Mary?
Diversity. Oh, it's a big word. We do have a diversity issue in Hastings. I believe we have a diversity issue in the United States. I hear it a lot that it's a big word, it's hard to break down. What does it mean? Who are you pertaining to? Is it color? Is it ethnic? What is it? It's all of that. And in this community, we have that going on. We are not going to grow unless we learn what diversity is. Now, I, along with Danna, am in this diversity, inclusion, and equity group. And a couple weeks ago, we had an 8-hour session, which was wonderful because it helped me. I'll talk for myself. I had a fear of diversity until I learned that day what it meant and what it means to me. Every large word like that is hard for all of us to put into our head because we don't know what it's about. The more I educate myself, the more I can educate you on diversity. The more education I can get for myself, the more comfortable I am and more welcoming to whoever I greet. I am an open person. I've been a hairdresser for 40 years. I mean, it's all I do is talk. I have an open forum sitting in my chair every day, and they tell me what their fears are, and that is one of them. They don't want to see Hastings grow. If they want to see Hastings grow, they want it to be white people. If they, there's a lot of that going on. I, too, encourage you, get involved in this because this is where Hastings is going to move forward. We need all of these people. We are all God's children. Let's be welcoming. Not only come as you are, but I can't remember what I was going to say. But anyway, you know what I'm talking about. And be the neighbor that you want your neighbor to be to you. I mean, I just had 2 neighbors move in next door to me. I thought, oh my gosh, are they moving out because I'm becoming mayor or I want to become mayor? But they're not. And so what do? You go to them. We're the ones that live here. We should be the welcoming ones for these new people coming into town. It's just a slight hand reach. Hi, you don't even have to say much. Just a smile is so welcoming, even if it's in the grocery store. There's a lot of people in Cub I don't even know anymore, and it's like, which I thought I knew everybody at Hastings. But it's growing, and we're going to start growing more rapidly with the new things that are coming in. Our downtown is great. The Rivertown Renaissance is beautiful. More and more people are going to be attracted to this community. We have to be the ones that need to welcome them every day, every minute. Anytime you see someone on the street, just hi, just be welcoming. And the other thing is, come as you are. It doesn't matter. Just come as you are. That's the type of town I want Hastings to be. They are now, and we're moving forward in that direction, but we can all help create that in this community.
Thank you. And onward to question 3. Are all of you coming up with all kinds of questions to ask later on? Okay, it's almost your turn, but not quite. Number 3. How do you feel about the transportation options currently available in our city? What will you do to increase those options? And this time now, Mary, we're starting with you.
Okay. Transportation is an issue as well that I have felt for many years. How do you get a grasp on it? But first of all, locally, I think we have a transportation issue just for the simple people that don't have vehicles, that are possibly handicapped and they can't get a ride anywhere. Parents have reached out to me and said, gosh, it's so hard. After school, I've got to get my kid to somewhere and I have to work, my husband has to work. If there could only be that simple local transportation that we could count on for those children, for anybody that needs a doctor appointment, for our seniors. Okay, so now we have the Loop, which is on Tuesdays, 9 to 2, which is helpful. But can you imagine, think about this. Every person in this room is a senior, and they have to go to the doctor between 9 and 2 on Tuesday. First of all, there's not enough doctors. Second of all, there's not enough appointments in the day to get you all there. We need Monday through Friday. It'd be even nice to have weekends that we could have transportation. People's cars break down, you know, even if it's just a simple, and we have Hastings Family Service that has Reach Out, the program, Good Just Friends, and they will take you for rides. But there are so many issues that people need rides for. I really want to make this a part of my number one thing, that we have to find transportation for local people first. Once we get that little baby going and the steps moving toward that, then we need to go on to bigger issues. But I really want to solve the issues we have going on within our community first.
And thank you also.
I have
first.
a transportation.
I was first.
Oh, that's right. You were first this time. I'm so sorry. Could you guys take that off the tape? I forgot.
Mike's like, no.
We used to have the track bus in Hastings, and it worked beautifully. And then the Met Council said, we're not going to give you any more money. And they walked out. And now we have Transit Link, which doesn't, it provides a service, but it's not the same. It's not the same quality. It's more of a dial-a-ride. And the Loop was put in a few years ago just to try to get something in motion. Unfortunately, the City Council had considered cutting it out, but I don't believe they are for 2019. So that's good news. But there was talk about it. So a couple of things. Mary's right. We've got to have transportation that goes around the city. But we also need transportation that connects us to other places. I had a woman tell me last week, she said, I just want to get a bus to Cottage Grove, and I am assuming she's going to Target. Which, I get that. And she was a senior. So I think a couple things have to happen. We do have to figure out a way to get bus service through Hastings, and the last time we studied this, it is monumentally expensive. So we have to figure out how to pay for it. There's also an east-west transit study that is going on in Dakota County to figure out if we can have connections between here, Rosemount, Apple Valley, and beyond. So there's that connection, but that study is going to happen. It's not finished. It's going to be coming through. And thirdly, there's a way for us to get a bus here if we push it, and I know how we can do that. If I'm elected mayor, right after I take the oath, I'm going up to the new Met Council chair, because there's likely going to be a new one because we're having a different governor. I'm going to work with Carla Bigham, and we're going to come up with a memorandum of understanding that says, yes, we will become part of the transit taxing district, but you need to give us a bus, and you need to give it to us now. Not 10 years from now, not 20 years from now, when you finally figured out that the West Metro has gotten everything they need, and then we'll come over to the East Metro, and after you've all paid all kinds of money in, then you'll get a bus, and I'll probably be dead. So, I hope not. But anyway, that's what we need to do. We need to push them. Because I know other communities, I've been told by other council members and mayors in other cities that say, oh yeah, we went into the transit taxing district and then they said, oh, well, thanks for the money, see ya. Not gonna happen. We're gonna do this and we're gonna do it now and we're gonna talk to them. And I've got the connections, I know who to talk to and how to get to them. And that is, that's my answer on the transportation issue because I think it is vital. And we've been working on the Red Rock Corridor, which I think is awesome. But the last time I checked, they weren't going to be able to get something down here for us until I was 83. That's just not, that is not sufficient for what we need to get done. So we got to get rolling on this, and we've got to meet our seniors where they need it. We have to meet our young people where they need it. And if we want our community to grow and we want to bring people into our, young people into our town, we've got to give them the opportunities so they can come and go and get to work. Thank you.
This time it's my turn, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Sorry.
It's okay, Jan.
Okay, question number 4 is a long one. Faster and more robust fiber optic broadband technology for the greater Hastings area, including rural Hastings, is an issue that will need support of the City of Hastings, Dakota County, and the state of Minnesota. It's important for teleworking from home, which is advantageous for women. What leadership role could you play as mayor in creating a more robust system?
So I don't remember this, but I've read about it. 100 years ago, there was the same issue with electricity. And maybe some of you know about it, but I'm sure you've read about it. Anyway, I feel that we're kind of in the same issue, but just in broadband and internet. 100 years ago, the Rural Electrification Act was made. And I don't know, I'm not saying that we need an act, but I think in order for Hastings to grow, we need to, I have heard from multiple people in Hastings that they don't feel we have an internet issue. Working from home, they find it's perfectly fine. But moving forward and seeing Hastings grow, I think eventually we're going to have to do this. We will have to work with the state of Minnesota and Dakota County to get this done. I'll be the first to tell you, this is not my head, but I definitely know that I can work with people and we'll get it done. If this is a priority that the city of Hastings feels they need, that is what we will make as a priority. I think there are, because of the rural areas are probably needing it more, and that's not an actual city issue, but we work together with those rural areas because they are a part of our community too. I think we can figure this out down the road, and I will be the person that will probably be the first person to sit there and try to absorb as much as I can so I can feel more comfortable. As I said earlier, the more we educate ourselves, the more comfortable we feel, and we can move forward with that. I don't know that there's a ton of people that really know what this is really all about, but there again, we have to educate ourselves, and I, as your mayor, will be the first one, like I said, to educate myself to move this forward if this is where we need to go.
Hastings currently has a joint powers agreement with cities in Dakota County and the County of Dakota to create our own fiber optic internet infrastructure to help entice industry and business to our cities. The immediate goal for the next 2-year period is, and that's the immediate goal for the next year or two. That this has been in process since, I think, last March, the joint powers was put together. And at first, this will just serve the cities. It will be a community serving the government entities. And then it could expand to something called a CNET for commercial and business use. And our council member, Tina Fulch, was appointed to that joint powers board. So she's been going to those meetings with other mayors and city officials and Dakota County residents. I think they have monthly meetings, and they're in the process, I think, of hiring an executive director. And there's a couple things. This is a big issue, and it's very important and it's important not only here, but statewide and nationally. We need to get some help from the legislature to fund a robust system, because it's discussed at the Capitol all the time, and the rural folks come in and they say, we are still using dial-up, and our kids go stand outside the library so they can get a hotspot, so they can, download something they have to do for school. So we need a little bit more money, and we have to get to those guys and say, hey, pay attention, because this is really important. Let's put some money where your mouth is. And so I would pledge to work with our county and city partners to impress upon our legislators and our new governor that we need the fiber optic connections to make things work. In something called, the state has the Department of Economic Development. Employment and Economic Development. And they run the program for the state of Minnesota, and we probably need to have connections with them or chat with them. And I would assume our Joint Powers Board is doing that at this point. And I talked about this before, but I would hope that once we get these fiber connectivities together, I really would like for us to find an office park or a co-working space. And there are lots of spots that we could do that. There's plenty of space out in the industrial park. There's space out to the west here that hasn't been used. And I think that would really be beneficial to women if they're trying to work from home, men as well. And just if you have to come home and do work, let's say, I used to get these calls, somebody's sick, Abby, and I'd have to go home, and I had a ton of work I had to get done, so I'd come home, and then I'd have to mess with my computer and try to figure out what to download and what not to do, because there was something I had to take care of, because I too have a very, very, very busy job. So one of the things I will mention is when I was on the council, we were able to bring cable access across the new bridge from across the river to make some of that connectivity. So this is a very, very complex issue, and I'm not going to pretend that I know everything about it, but we're on the road for it, but we just have to work forward and press on, because I think it is important if we want the community to grow and prosper.
Thank you also. We're at the point where we're going to ask each candidate for just a 2-minute final thoughts they have. So unscripted, Mary, you're first on this one also.
Okay. Well, in closing, I am just thankful that you were all here tonight. It was so nice to see friendly faces, some that I know and some that I don't know. I will be the first to tell you I am not going to have all the answers, and I don't think anybody should have all the answers. It needs to be a learning experience for all. I will put myself as the #1 learner. All the business experience I have, the governmental committees and commissions that I've served on, and just all the civic organizational things that I have done in the last 40 years have given me so much knowledge to get me this far. I think leadership is vital in any issue. I feel I have the leadership skills to do that. I'm a people person. I am for the people, not the podium. I have a heart. I welcome you all to join me in voting on November 6th. Whomever you vote for, it's your right to vote. Please vote.
Thank you. Danna?
I sometimes have to write my thoughts down because it makes things a little bit easier for me. I want our city government to be open and to exhibit honesty, fairness, integrity, accountability, and respect for the people who live and work here. And I also want our city residents to exhibit those ideals to city government and for each other. And I pledge to bring those things to the mayor's office. Mayor Paul Hicks has led our community admirably for the last 12 years, and as a city council member for 14 years before that. His will be big shoes to fill. And although Paul makes this job look easy, I know it takes hard work, commitment, and especially experience to step into this role. It's more than running meetings. It means weighing competing options, finding solutions, and putting words into action. And sometimes you've got to give a little to get to the solution. There's no on-the-job training, and there's no time for missteps. Whoever takes the oath of office in January must be ready to lead on day one. I believe that I am the person who can best do this for our city and our residents. My 16 years of council service on various commissions and as a civic volunteer have given me a deep understanding of how government works and prepares me for the role as mayor. I also pledge to be a strong advocate for our community and our residents. I promise to bring a new vision and to work with all of you to meet the opportunities and the challenges that lie ahead for us. Leadership ability is something that it is learned and it is gained through hard work and commitment. And I want to thank Mary for being here tonight and being a very a good opponent for running a positive campaign. And I hope we can continue that. We have 2 weeks left. 2 weeks left. I wanted to leave you with a quote from probably not everybody's favorite president, but this is a very timely quote, Richard Nixon. We cannot learn from one another until we stop shouting at one another, until we speak quietly enough so that our words can be heard as well as our voices. And I believe that as the mayor of this city, that is something that we need to take to heart, and that will help us move forward and make our city an even better place. Thank you very much. Yes, November 6th is coming, and I encourage you to vote. Thank you.
Okay, so we're reaching the point of the evening where you get to ask the questions, and we will start with a different candidate each time. You don't have to commit if you don't want to, but how many of you are finding, like me, it's getting harder to make your decision the more answers that you're hearing? We are really fortunate in this community to have these two women willing to take on this mayoral challenge. So, Lisa, if you want to, are you going to carry that mic to people? And I get to call on you, whoever has a question that you would like to ask. They'll both answer it. Take it to Glenda there. And some of you may need to move in a little bit if our cord doesn't quite reach.
Thank you so much. Mary, your campaign material says that your plan for Hastings is to have transparency at City Hall. Could you expand on that? Because as a citizen, I have felt good transparency, but it sounds like you think otherwise. Could you remark on that, please?
Sure. Transparency is just being open and honest. I announced October 4th. I have heard throughout that year that there isn't the transparency that people in the community would like to see. I'm only stating what I want to work on. And like I said earlier, I'm a very open person. I'm very approachable. I make people accountable in my work areas. Anything that I work, and the committees I work with and the organizations that I move forward in different things, I just feel that there have been some roadblocks for some businesses in this community that might not be equal opportunities for all, and transparency is a part of that. If I If I have this person coming to me asking me for this and this person coming to me, of course I'm going to make the right decision, which is going to be the best for the community, for everyone. It can't be just for one person am I making a decision. So transparency is putting it out there that all are welcome to bring businesses, whatever they want to bring to the community, and we'll listen to it. And I'm not alone. I have 6 other people that are going to be working with me. We're going to be making decisions for the community.
Thank you. Danna, the question was directed at Mary, but we want to give you the opportunity to respond. You'll have up to 2 minutes.
Thank you. Transparency. I guess that I think that the most recent issue that I would like to bring up in terms of transparency would be the E. coli in the water that was at the end of September. And I think the problem I'm hearing from a lot of people at the doors is that the issue was not brought to people adequately or in as timely a fashion as they wanted, and that the communication was a little bit lax. And I am not going to throw a staff person under the bus because they were working extremely hard to make sure on a weekend to make sure people were finding out about it. But I think that what probably needs to happen in a case like this in terms of getting the transparency is you need a crisis communication plan, which the city hasn't, or a crisis response plan, which the city has not had for a number of years. And I think they need that needs to be updated. You know, the last 6-8 years, how we communicate with people has changed dramatically. Between Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram, you know, I'm missing half of them, I'm sure. We need to be able to figure out how to get to people in those ways, and also we probably need to be able to get to them personally. I would say that those sort of transparency issues are really out there for people, and they want to know sort of what's going on, and very quickly. But I also think that there should be more transparency at the city council level. And what I mean is, a lot of times council meetings and agendas come out and you read it, and after a while you say, okay, I understand why we're vacating an easement. It's like, why does an easement need to go on vacation? It just doesn't make any sense. But people need to understand exactly what's happening at the council level. And I really think that we need to have those kind of connections, and to make that communication, to make government more transparent so people actually understand what's happening at the city level.
Thank you. Do we have another?
So here's the question. Please describe any existing business relationships you have with developers, and how will you maintain impartiality when you are mayor?
Danna, that will be yours first this time.
Okay.
2 minutes.
2 minutes. Okay. Well, while I was on the city council, I worked extensively with numerous developers, and while I was on the planning commission as well, because as you probably know, when I got elected in 2000, the boom started, and we were building houses and building houses and building houses like crazy. And you had, you know, Wallen, you had, and I can't even name them all, that were coming into Hastings and wanting to build homes. So I have relationships with them in the sense that I've worked with them in the past. I don't have a ton of personal relationships, but I know people who we have worked hard with over the years, and they're developers that made money during the time, and I'm happy that they invested in our community. And I also watched growth come to a screeching halt during the recession, and the city felt the brunt of that in its budget. And now we can have a chance to recover from that. So there are probably developers that don't like me, but it's probably because I will stand up and say, we have standards. There are things that you have to do in order to exist and build in our community. And being mayor means you have to represent everybody. And I'm going to use an example. Over here, that way, the Wallens wanted to build townhomes. right near some of the single-family residences. And it wasn't until the issue got to the Planning Commission that the residents really knew what was happening and came in and said, hold it, we don't understand, we're not sure we like this. And I'm going to give you a thought. Why don't we try having neighborhood councils? And I'm not talking about people who are elected, and I'm not talking about another layer of government or politics, but someone that can be right from the get-go. When this goes to the planning committee of council, so that someone in a neighborhood can understand, here's what we're thinking of doing. How does the neighborhood feel about this? What should we do to make this work? And I'm not saying we don't need more housing. I'm just saying we need to have the right kind of conversations with our neighbors, with our citizens, with our residents, and with the people who want to help our city grow, so that we're all on the same page.
Thank you. Our time is up. Sorry.
Okay.
Mary?
I do have relationships with the builders of this community. They have reached out to me prior to the election and have said, they have actually asked me to run for something within the city because they know I have an ear that I will listen to the developers. But also, they also know that I have a voice that I will stand up for the community as it's needed. I too was involved with the Wallen addition at the council meetings, and I did hear people, but also the council and the mayor are there to make the right decision for the right reason. And with relationships and us working together with the builders, I plan to work with the builders and let's get on the same page to help make Hastings grow. I've reached out to them, they've reached out to me. I've been supported by them for years, even before I announced I was mayor, because they would ask me, how can we do this? How can we do that? I've had table discussions with these people, and I really feel they all want to see Hastings grow as I do. I'm going to change that word, not grow, develop. I want it to develop as they do into a Hastings that, everybody says, why can't we be like Stillwater? Why can't we just be Hastings? Let's make Hastings Hastings. And I think with our developers, our businesses, I think we can move forward in developing Hastings to the best it can be.
Thank you. Do we have any others?
So if elected mayor, I am wondering if you're able to make a promise to the citizens of Hastings that you will not run for state legislature and commit through a full term for Hastings until that term is up.
Mary, that'll be you first this time.
I will guarantee you, I have been approached to run for House in past years, and I am not that girl. I am a local girl. I love Hastings and just want to make it better.
Thank you.
No.
We didn't need 2 minutes on this one, did we? Okay. I know we had a few more hands.
I'm just wondering, if, as mayor, if you, I think the schools the numbers are down on the schools, and as a mayor, what would you do? Why do you see it's that way, and what would you do?
Thanks for the question. Yeah, it's a problem. And I think there's a couple things we need to do. Get together with the school district and the tourism committee of the council, the chamber, and they're going out for an RFP to talk about some marketing. But we have to have a brand, and we have to get people here. And that's how we do it, is by working together. There's a community in northern Minnesota called Barnesville. It's outside of Fargo-Moorhead. 25 miles, just like us. And they have figured it out. Good schools, parks, small town, 12 parks. They do a great job, and they don't try to be everything to everybody. And they have a slogan that says, it's something like Barnesville, the good life. I think we should have a contest for someone to come up with the right kind of a slogan for us. And I think we need to work with people on figuring out how to tell folks, come and see us, and then stay. And the school district needs to join us in that. The Chamber of Commerce needs to join us in that. And our businesses need to join us in that, and residents. And to talk about how we can do that. And I think we've got a really, really good start with downtown. It's dynamic, and it's changing, and it's really bringing people in. And I think our next move is facelift on Vermilion Street. It's time. I get too many people who say, oh, I drove through your town, went right to Red Wing and had lunch. You know, it's like, no, stop here. Stop here. And I was on the Vermilion Street Corridor Commission, and I think we can get working on some of that. They've got a long list of ways we can do that, some short-term, some long-term, some immediate-term. A little bit of money here and there that we might have to provide some incentives. And I think that that is the way for us to work on that and to market ourselves. We have a great school district. It's in large part why we stayed here. And I think we need to tell people how great it is. Thank you.
Okay, Mary.
Well, to answer your question, Deb, I've worked hard on trying to figure out why our schools are declining. I come from a class of 476 in 1977. That's a lot. The year after me, it was 525. The year after me, it was back in the high 400s. I don't know why that's trickling, other than I live in a middle part of town. I live on 13th and Walnut, and I live in a Rambler. And I think it's housing, partially, because I'm not leaving my house. I'm sorry, but my business is there now. But those are the type of homes. I have elderly people around me that these new coming families would love to have. But there's nowhere for those seniors to go. So it's the cart before the horse. What do we do first? Do we build, housing for young families to come to town? Or do we build housing for seniors so that they can, move into a natural, progress? Or do we, I don't know what we do, but I think, I'm working at it, and I'm reading tons and talking with people. I think housing is the issue of our schools declining. They say people aren't having children. I don't think that's true. I just had 3 kids move in on this side and 3 kids move on that. That's what we need. But because those people moved out of town and those people moved out of town, there were 2 houses for families to move into. So I don't know how we create that ball to get rolling, if it's, like I said, if it's senior housing or if it's affordable housing for these young families. But I'm working on it.
Thank you. Other questions? We do have one more.
Question. Target is closed their store. A couple years ago, the property taxes for that store were like $600,000. Last year, they went to $500,000. The trend is different. $600,000 is in my property taxes that 200 houses with a property tax bill of $3,000 each would generate. What's the solution to that problem? Why is the amount of property taxes that building going down? Is there any understanding of why that is?
Dan, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it should be Mary
Oh,
this time.
okay.
Sorry.
To be honest, I don't have that knowledge in my head. I don't know why Target left. It's sad, but there again, if we had, now this is just me, I want to retain the businesses we have and try to bring in new businesses too. I can't answer your question.
You don't know why the property tax went down?
I do not. I do not.
Okay. Dan, the big box stores, the valuations all went down for 2019. Housing values went up, but the big box stores went down. That includes Walmart, the other big box. And I am not exactly sure why, but I'm going to give a guess that says it's the nature of the retail market right now. The stores with the big footprint aren't doing as well because people are ordering everything online and the stuff is coming out of a big warehouse. So that's an assessment that we'll have to see what happens, but that is why. But the homes went up in value because they had hit rock bottom during the recession. So now they're on the upswing, which is a good thing if you're deciding you want to sell your house. And I think I'm going to go back to the question that Quinn asked. I am not intending to run for the legislature. I'm going to stay here for 4 years, and I don't. When I said no, that means I'm not running. I've had enough of that life, and I want to be here. I'm hoping I can retire in a few years, and that will give me a lot of time to focus on this. And that kind of politics is just, it's difficult, and I want to be here. So thank you for the question.
Anything come up while they were talking? If not, then thank you all very much for your attention tonight and to the candidates for sharing their views and being willing to serve.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank you.